Like, I think one good, I suppose, mantra or whatever to go by is like, if your phone disappeared and died, like, what is it you have to say for like the life that you lived, right? Was it awesome or not? Or do you spend all of it actually looking at your phone? That's why now that it's gone, like, wow, I'm so bored. Or like, I am boring, even worse.
Every time they say like, Mommy, I'm so bored, I want to use iPad. I'm like, only boring people are bored.
Yeah.
And even though they're young, they get very offended.
Yeah, they're like,
I'm not boring.
Yeah.
Then go outside and play.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like you have an imagination. They can't see it for
Showing
themselves.
them the alternative.
Yeah.
That the alternative to using their phone could be even greater.
Before we start off with today's episode, I'd like to give a big shout out to IMDA for teaming up with us for 3 episodes on digital wellness as part of their Digital for Life campaign. What does digital wellness mean? How can we practice good online habits, ensure cyber safety, and reduce our risks to online harms? The Digital for Life movement aims to enable the community and citizens of all ages to embrace digital learning as a lifelong pursuit. With digital as a new way of life, we need to know what to do and how to take care of our digital wellness. We can make the internet a better, safer, and kinder place for everyone. To find out more, visit go.gov.sg/digital wellness.
Hi! Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
Our topic of today is actually to cover digital burnout. We wanted you both to join us on this episode today because I think both of you are, first of all, two women who have grown up with social media and seen like how the landscape has kind of evolved. And also you both run a business called Elementary Co. That's a branding and marketing agency, right, that relies a lot on social media. And you have kids growing up in the digital age. So I thought, who better to come on board to share about living online and like managing digital burnout than the two of you. So thanks for joining me today.
Hi, I'm Charmaine. I run a branding and marketing agency called Elementary. It is 8 years old this year. And I also have 2 kids who are 7 and 4.
And hi, I'm Aarika. I feel I'm going to be duplicating what Sean says, but I'm marketing director at Elementary Co. And I have 2 kids too. So I have a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old.
Tell me a bit about how you both started with social media, like way back in the day.
Well, this is gonna definitely betray our age. But
Way back then.
way back then, before Facebook or anything. I think, what was it first? Like Friendster?
Oh my gosh, yes, Friendster, man. It was.
Yeah.
I mean, it was ICQ, MSN.
There's just online chats first. And then
ICQ.
IRC. Do you even know what that is?
yeah, they're all just like online chat rooms, right? That was like our first experience, I guess, with like social media and like online chatting and stuff. And I think like we only maybe started using it a bit more when I moved to Hong Kong and Aarika moved to Melbourne to do your degree.
Yeah.
So by that time, we were already about 20 years old. And then we started a blog called Zenga. Does anyone even use Zenga?
Yeah,
Is it even still around?
It's
I
a
don't even
blog
know.
No idea.
platform. Yeah, it was a blog
But I remember
platform,
Zenga.
Yeah.
I remember Zenga.
So it was a blogging platform, and we started it so that we could all keep in touch with our other girlfriends as well who were in Singapore or in Perth. Like
Yeah,
we were
everyone was
basically all
everywhere.
around the world. Everybody was studying or living overseas. So we started our blogs to update each other on our lives and to also keep up to date with each other. I
Yeah.
remember Erica's Zenga is called the
Silent
Girl.
Girl. I was a very like emo.
Yeah, but also it's like so
Oh my God,
Dark
you're
girl.
very
Not
emo.
me at all. I am not
silent.
even silent at all.
Yeah.
But I think it was because I could create an alter ego, right? Like you could kind of be anyone.
the silent girl who wrote and spoke a lot on Zenga.
But I was going to say also that like I think Zenga as a platform, I mean like ICQ, IRC and all these online chat rooms, it literally like began at the birth of the internet age in a way. And
like
it was suddenly like,
dial-up modem kind of days.
like the kind where like if you're online and someone calls into your house, like
Yep.
it would disconnect.
Yep.
You know, and you'd be like, who is on the phone? Right? Or who called?
I'm blogging now.
Actually, it wasn't blogging. It was like you would be chatting to someone
Chatting,
or whatever, and
yeah.
then like it'll interrupt your conversation, right? But I think those platforms really kind of just suddenly made us realize we could like make friends, I suppose, right? With
People who weren't from your school, who weren't even living in the same country.
Yeah, and also Zenga was really like a platform to express yourself, like you know, because like once we found, I mean, writing was obviously something that we both really enjoyed, and then like you could incorporate photographs and collages,
taking pictures.
that would just give you something or a way to like just have some space to express yourself.
What was the following like for the blogs back then, and then how you guys kind of like how the following grew to where you are today, and how did your social media use kind of change?
No idea, honestly. I don't know how or why people started following us.
I think maybe even the fact that we were living abroad would also give people
probably.
like at home like something else like to live vicariously through maybe even. So aside from keeping in touch or rather reading Sham's blog because she's my friend. It was also like, oh, what's she doing in wherever she was, Shanghai or Hong Kong? Like, oh, this looks like fun. And like, just, I guess, learning about a new city through the eyes of your friend was something that was like interesting to me.
Our followers / friends have just grown up with us like over the years. So when we first started out, we were students, and we were either studying or starting out at our careers. And I think everybody was in around the same place as us. And then eventually when we moved over to Instagram, that's like so many years later though.
Yeah.
Was there like Facebook in between?
Yeah.
So, and then now a lot of our followers, I would say, are moms.
Yep.
Yeah, like people with families. Or like maybe younger women who are looking to start their own businesses as well.
So like I was in a band with my husband and we took part in School Invasion. And School Invasion was a program that basically brought local bands to school assemblies, which was like super fun for us. Like I wish that
had
was
that
around
when
when
we
we
were
were
in
in
school.
school. But to get the opportunity to play at a school assembly, it was like a dream. It was so fun. And so every time we played a school, like we would just share like our Instagram account. So I think like the following for me on Instagram really grew from the School Invasion tours. Being able to kind of go and play and then connecting with like these kids and growing the following. So when Sham says like our followers grew up with us, I think for mine really they grew up with me. Like they were secondary school students and then like I've met them in real life like now as a grown up. They're like in their own careers now and they're like, you played at my school. I'm like, oh my gosh. Thanks for reminding me, I'm so old. But it's really nice to actually meet them. And some of them I actually remember they'll show me pictures. Like, we took this picture together at the school assembly and like, this is who I am now. I'm like, amazing.
Very cute, very cute.
I'm so old.
But I just find that like, there's a lot of, I guess, negative things that social media has brought about, I think, today because of how many people are on it and the I guess the amount of ways that people have discovered they can use social media. But like for what it is, like I think it's been quite an amazing platform for the two of us.
I would say that you guys seem to have quite a healthy relationship with social media in the first place. And the second thing is that you're quite confident in standing up for what you believe in, and then also to the way you present yourselves quite.
Because I'm going to say that comes with age.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It definitely comes with age. Like you become comfortable in like who you are, where you sit,
with some grey hairs.
I'm waiting.
wrinkles.
But I want to ask, I guess the question is like, how have you observed that like social media has kind of like changed?
It's changed a lot, I feel.
I think in one of our earlier conversations, we were also talking about how like some people have very different online personas and IRL personas. I don't think that's the case for us. But I guess I see it more in the younger generations and just how they present themselves. I guess it doesn't help right now so that a lot of us have not been able to go out and socialize as much over the past 2 years. So truly your Instagram self or your TikTok self, that is who you think you really are.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
I think we were also really lucky that these platforms became available to us when there were no such expectations to like look a certain way or post certain things or lead a certain lifestyle. It was really a space for us to be ourselves. And I think on that journey, we definitely have encountered moments where like, oh, maybe I should, I guess, be more wary in a way almost about what we post. So like, you definitely come into situations where you do think about who is watching you and what you see. But I think, it was always very important for us that who we are in real life translated into what our platforms were, or it was more important that we had real connections with people.
I'm wondering, has there ever been a situation where you felt like burnout or like being on social media is just like too much?
I think it felt like it was too much probably in the last few months or so. But that is also because like it's COVID fatigue, and like every time you go online, like the news is always so dire. Not just in Singapore, but around the world, right? There's always one thing or another that's happening.
Yep.
And you want to keep up because you need to know and you want to know, and it's important issues, but like it's just so overwhelming. Yeah, and like I cannot not use social media because of work.
Yep.
But then I think like I was becoming resentful of having to use it a little bit. I noticed a bit more of that.
I almost
this
want to
year.
lose my phone. I hope I lose my phone.
Yeah. Like, you know. But then at the same time, still being like, oh, but then I also want to kind of like remember these moments with my kids and put it down, you know, in writing. So like during circuit breaker and stuff, like when we couldn't even leave our houses, you know, for quite an extended period, like then that kind of really got to me.
I think, like you said, the nature of our work requires us to be on social media. I guess like when it all culminates, like it does become very stressful, and then like having to feel that you're always on Instagram looking at what people are sharing, especially now, like you mentioned, like during COVID, where like there are many more like sort of low and tired moments, and like when you're vulnerable like that and you see like, you know, whether it's depressing news or whether it's someone who is like living life like it's normal somewhere else, you're just like, help me, I like need like some kind of valve to open so that I can have a release, you know. So I think there is digital fatigue in that sense when sometimes these expectations you kind of like are self-inflicted, like you feel like you need to also sort of be okay, like, you know, if you go like many days without sharing sometimes, and then this is also like you mentioned, like my husband and I are both on social media, so sometimes my husband will say random things like, I haven't posted anything for like days, how I'm like, is it important? Like, is it important that we do, right? You know, I mean, it's just silly conversations that we have, but just because like our lives do sort of like, I mean, there is a work sort of aspect to it on the platform. You do feel somewhat of a sense of responsibility to make sure that you are upkeeping it somehow. So I do think like the fatigue and the burnout does come.
Despite having like no followers, right? I still felt very fatigued in general. On one hand, like you said, right, if I tap out, it's irresponsible of me also because we all work in the media industry. And then on the other hand, it's also a bit of like a responsibility, right, for you guys as like moms, and also you have to know what's happening in the world, right? So I guess I'm wondering for you guys, like how do y'all kind of draw those like boundaries? Because for me, it took me really long. I think like even now it's something that I struggle with a lot. Like I'm thinking, I feel guilty when I'm not informed and aware, and then when I'm overly stimulated, I'm like, okay, it gets to the point where it's like really, really bad. Then I'm like, okay, you know what? I maybe need to go and like take a walk or something. I don't know.
I mean, I think like you said, right, that desire to be up to date is very real, and like you can't help it. The minute you load your Instagram, you're met by news, right, and people sharing about it, and like I think it's very easy to fall into that like black hole of the mindless scroll. So like during I think like circuit breaker, I felt like I was just getting like sucked into this black hole of negativity when it came to like news online, what was happening in the world and stuff like that. And then, you know, like once you load your feed and it's just like this mindless scroll, before you know it, 3 hours has passed and like you've just been reading and sharing stuff. And that's when I realized like, okay, boundaries definitely need to be put in place. And I don't want to wake up and start my day by like looking at my phone and getting up to date with the news, because then it just puts me in a very bad, like negative headspace to carry on the rest of the day. So I decided that I would not use social media until lunchtime. And I think it sounds so small to some people, like a few hours, what difference does it make? But it makes so much difference. Like your day is peaceful, you know, like yes, there are things happening in the world, but they can wait for a little bit. Like, we don't have to, I don't know, put this burden on ourselves that we have to be up to date every second of our lives. And then I also like enable all these like screen time limits for my phone. So like at 11:15 my phone will start to like wind down, right? And then like apps would start to go to sleep and stuff. And then by midnight, like my phone is just sleeping. And so I wouldn't be disturbed, like, you know.
In that sense, technology has like all the means to help you, right? The tools to like help you actually set boundaries.
And so like, you know, I wouldn't feel obliged to then like reply messages or be sucked into group chats or, you know, like send out emails late at night and things like that. I mean, yes, we still have to work after our kids sleep once in a while, you know, but I think there were just less distractions that way. Like just focus on the things that you really needed to do, like check off those tasks and be done with it.
And we started elementary because we wanted more autonomy with our time. We wanted to be able to like not be a slave to our job. So like if all the things that we were doing was negating what we were trying or why we even started elementary. So I think like you, especially during COVID, I was just like, or rather when the pandemic kicked off and we were all in like circuit breaker mode, it was like, okay, you know, there has to be like a line that we draw, because if not, it's going to be non-stop.
I think the boundaries are also important because I felt a responsibility to the team, like the rest of elementary, you know, like like they are also dealing with their own issues, right? Like everybody is having COVID fatigue, and I didn't want to be that boss who was also like messaging them at 6-7 o'clock in the morning. So like everybody feels like they have a bit more space to breathe. And then having to deal with HBL without kids, and like so it's just accumulated
Exactly.
stress. Yeah.
I'm wondering if was there like a point for both of you where it was like where you're like snapped?
I mean, yes. I think a few points.
Yeah, I mean so. But I don't know what those points might be.
Yeah, I've always thought that I'm a very resilient and like optimistic person. But then I think maybe in like the last 2 months or so, like things have been particularly difficult because like, I mean, my daughter's health hasn't been so good. So she was like in hospital for 9 days, and then it was like in September, I think. And then like work stress was just getting to me as well. And then like just like this COVID is never ending. And yeah, so I was feeling particularly low, I think like a week before my birthday, right?
Leading up to it.
So like a week before my birthday, I was feeling particularly lousy, and like I think we were talking in a group chat about like going overseas and like, now BTL we can travel, and I was like, you know what? The thought of traveling doesn't even excite me. And that is, I have never felt that way before.
Because it's like not you at all. you know?
I was just like, I just felt so low. And because I was feeling so lousy, I decided I am going to delete my Gmail app. So I wouldn't see any email notifications that were coming in. And that I would also move all my chat apps like to the last page, last screen, on my phone. And basically I just wasn't using my phone at all. And it actually really helped me figure out how to get over how I was feeling. Like that low point, that heaviness that I was experiencing. Like it freed up my headspace to think about the steps that I needed to take. And it allowed me to really just like focus on spending time with my kids. And the less I looked at my phone, the better I felt. And after that period of time, like I actually knew what I needed to do, and so I decided to start going for therapy. So I think that digital detox like really did wonders for me.
From the therapy session, what were some kind of like things that you got out, and like what did the therapist say that was particularly like maybe impactful to you?
I felt that what was helpful for me in these therapy sessions is that I was able to speak to someone very candidly and completely honestly, and have a very unbiased point of view of hers shared back to me. Because you know, when you talk to your friends and stuff like that, because they know you and they know your work and they know your children and your family, the advice that they can give can sometimes be a bit skewed. But she was also, so just having that listening ear, very unbiased, and then like for her to also be very candid and honest in her feedback or her assessment of what I've been doing, whether right or wrong. And I thought that was very good. And then she was also able to tell me things that are so simple, but I just needed to hear, like, you need to be your own best friend. You know, like you cannot put everybody first and then like still expect yourself not to snap. And like you think to yourself like, that is logical, I could tell you that, right? But like I just really needed to hear it from somebody else. And also I think I was trying to figure out how to also deal with other people in my family being depressed. Because obviously this isn't just taking a toll on me, it's taking a toll on my family members as well. Therapy helped me figure out how to better work on the relationships with the people around me who are not feeling so great as well.
I think for me, I feel very overwhelmed sometimes, often when I'm at home actually, which to me sucks because I feel I work very hard to like build this space for myself to sort of, I mean, home is a very safe space, but I think once sort of like work from home kicked in, I wasn't able to have that separation anymore. So I think during circuit breaker, there were a lot of moments where I just felt very overwhelmed by the responsibilities. I think, you know, when you're a mom and like you're running your own business and like you have a home, like suddenly everything is more priority than yourself and your well-being because like I need to make sure my kids have their meals. I need to make sure like, you know, we work as a team and like I have to finish my portion so that I can pass it on. If not, like the next person can't do their part. I always feel like I'm up to my neck, you know, with
like
things to do.
checklist never ends.
Yeah, the checklist never ends. It's like I'm always having to do something and I never like there's no room for me to just decompress, like I mentioned before, like just to like, you know, not think about doing something next. There have been countless days where like at the end of it, like when I'm taking my shower at night, I just involuntarily find myself like crying, like just from all, I guess, the held up emotions from the day. And like there's so many things. So even like having Zoom, sometimes like back-to-back calls, and with my kids at home, sometimes simultaneously trying to like oversee a HBL, like it can just be so much. And having them interrupt sometimes, and I feel bad that I always have to tell them to please wait, but like I'm on a call, or please wait, I need to finish this right now, because that's not the home setting that I wanted to create. But the truth of the matter is, this is how, almost what we have to deal with day to day. And it's sad that they are expected to understand this, even though that kids are super resilient, and if you explain to them, they definitely get it. But it's also, I guess, learning to just be like have some grace and be gentle about it with myself, because it's unrealistic for me to be hard on myself for something that I don't have control over. But it's tough because it's so muddled when you feel like you have no control over your home space. Do you know what I mean?
I know, I totally get it.
Yeah, it's like, this is my personal space, I should have control over it. But at the same time, there's so many factors around the world right now that is causing me to not have control over it. So I think that, that sort of the uncertainty of when it's even going to end, everything that I thought I had, in check, kind of like just like falls to pieces. So I feel like those days are the days where I just feel like, man, like I thought I had together, but I really don't,
We're taking a short break. Something Private is a podcast produced under local media publisher Our Grandfather's Story. This episode was made in collaboration with our friends at IMDA to talk about online harms and taking care of our digital wellness. Check out go.gov.sg/digital wellness to find out more. Now back to the episode.
I wanted to add that I have like immense respect for like parents during like COVID, because I don't know how y'all are handling having children at home and like being like moms and like helping your children grow up in like an environment where they cannot go to school, right? Or it's like, how are they gonna make friends, or like how are you gonna make sure that their education is like complete, or like they're getting the full experience of what it means to be a kid in school, right?
Honestly, the education bit is the lowest of my priority right now. For me, I'm sadder and more worried about the fact that they're leading such, I don't know, like
isolated lives.
they're, what kind of childhood is this?
Correct.
They have where they can't even play at recess. They sit down in the hall, right? During recess.
They have to wear masks all day. Like Zola came home one day and she showed me like a note her friend had written her, and like I don't know why, because I used to write notes in class, I was like, hey, you shouldn't be writing notes in class, you should pay attention to the teacher. Not because I was trying to like just scold her, but like, hey, like just make sure you're not so distracted that you don't know what's going on. She's like, no, I wrote it during recess. I was like, why are you writing notes during recess? Can't you just talk to your friend? She's like, no, we're not allowed to talk.
Oh no.
And I was like,
so I think that is the thing that we were sad about more than anything. They're getting shortchanged, basically.
Even when they go to the playground, like they have to keep their masks on, and they're like, mommy, I cannot breathe. Then they're going to a corner, like Ari is literally at a tree breathing, and I'm just like, this looks crazy. But it's what he feels is like he is comfortable doing and what he feels safe doing, you know what I mean? Like he felt safe in school and he didn't feel that anymore, because teachers would be like, wash your hands, don't hug your friends, don't like take off your mask, and for a kid, I think suddenly getting all this information and not knowing how to process it, like for Ari, it like translated into this fear that he couldn't describe to me. And like, so what me and Kev did, like once we found out, was to sort of make school days fun again for him. And that was like taking him out like after school, like going to the beach, and it did mean like prioritizing our time, because like that means like certain things that we would do during that time after school, like usually would be go back to work, we just had to say like, we can't work right now because like Ari needs us to spend time with him, and just to reassure him and just to remind him that like things that he knew to be safe, and life still felt a bit normal if we could take him out to the beach, if we could take him to the playground, and he still felt like he could be a child, and so I think as parents going through the pandemic, like it's not only our own sort of like mental and emotional state that we have to deal with, but also that of our kids, and every kid reacts differently.
Our daughters, actually our kids, they're good friends, right? But they can't meet up all the time. So in order for them to still hang out with each other, They have to play games, or they FaceTime, or they play game online. They play,
so they can meet each other.
They can meet each other in the games online. Which is so sad.
Yeah, it is.
You know, whereas like previously they would be having play dates, they hang out together, go to the playground, go to the beach, you know.
Go to each other's house.
Now it's online. Like, hey, can I play games so that I can see Ari and Zola online later?
Yeah. You know, every parent is like, even your parents are like, don't spend too much time online. It's like bad for your health. It's like you meet strangers online and stuff like that. How do you draw the boundaries, make the rules as to like how to manage their digital like wellness in general, I guess?
We don't just say like it's bad for you, right?
you have to
Because
explain
it's
to
not
them
true that
things.
it's bad for them also, because they learn so much from using the iPad, honestly. But we tell them that, you know, there has to be a time and place for everything, and everything in moderation, right? You can't just be using the iPad the entire day, then you miss out on everything else. Like, you know, you like to go and cycle, you want to meet your friends.
There's only
in the
24
park.
hours in a day.
Yeah, so you have to just use your time wisely, right? So I think not just being like restrictive with like no rationale behind it, like that's not the way that we parent. It's just about having these very simple conversations with them. I think the worry with like kids having to do more HBL, like more online classes these days and everything, is that they are just constantly in front of a device, right? The worry that they will have digital burnout is real. But I think like what we've tried to do is that we don't tell them that they cannot use the devices at all, but we try to talk to them about having a more healthy relationship with it. I think you mentioned something about making real life more awesome for your kids as well, and showing them that, hey, if you are going to be using your iPad, you're going to miss out on all the fun that's happening in the park. Like, you know, let's go look at the dogs.
Real life FOMO.
It's true. It really works. Because you know, we're outside making like, woo,
I think we're very good at
out.
hyping our kids up.
We're like big hype people. Kevin is excellent at it. Like, so I think like I'm so glad I have a partner who like make it seem like something in the hall is happening that is so amazing. The kids cannot help but come and check it out, and they want to be part of it, right? Because it's so cool. Like the line is so fine.
Correct.
Like because you know they need it for school,
Yeah.
right, to be on the device, and actually like the device or the access that they have teaches them a lot. But then they also need to know that, okay, there has to be an amount of time that you spend on it, like Seah mentioned. And then after that, you got to go and live a real life, right? I think at the end of the day, like, I think one good, I suppose, mantra or whatever to go by is like, if your phone disappeared and died, like, what is it you have to say for like the life that you lived, right? Was it awesome or not? Or do you spend all of it actually looking at your phone? That's why now that it's gone, like, wow, I'm so bored. Or like, I am boring, even worse.
Every time they say like, Mommy, I'm so bored, I want to use iPad. I'm like, only boring people are bored.
Yeah.
And even though they're young, they get very offended.
They're like,
It's
"What?"
not
Boring. Then go outside and play. Okay.
Yeah, it's like you have an imagination. They can't see it for
Showing them
themselves.
the alternative.
Yeah.
That the alternative to using their phone could be even greater. It is
like,
greater.
you know, we can actually go downstairs and play, right?
Yeah.
With bubbles. You know, like kids are like suckers for bubbles. Like bubbles. Yeah.
Like, we haven't been able to travel for the last almost 2 years already. So I think we've had to get creative with and explore what Singapore has to offer. And honestly, there are a lot of things for kids to do that don't involve spending money even. Like, I actually realized in the last year that there are so many awesome nature parks in Singapore. And it's so fun to go and explore them because the biodiversity is so different in each of them. So some are maybe like more mangrove, and some are a little bit more like rainforest, and the kids love it. Like, they walk around, they get to see in real life the things that they were watching on TV.
On Nat Geo and stuff.
Yeah, or just to like appreciate things like bird song or like sunrise.
And if you can't go outside, like Zola, my elder daughter, she really loves art and drawing.
Yeah.
And I feel
Really
like
like that.
they can really spend so much time painting or drawing and creating like a world just on their art sheet, right? And I think like activities like that take them away from the devices and like kind of like allow them to be creative, like let them hone in on their skills of like imagination and, you know, storytelling. You know, because I guess those activities like art or like even writing stories like don't necessarily require you to always be overseeing, like kind of watching them if your sort of day-to-day is very busy. So kind of just setting up an art space for them to like express themselves. They have so little time in the day, one after school, like, and if she's playing iPad, then it's like, you know, they're not going downstairs to like play, or they're not hanging out with each other or hanging out with us or whatever it is. So we've limited them to playing on the weekends. But as they're getting older, I do see that like sometimes I feel like now that these restrictions might not necessarily be like required anymore. Like I feel like I do want them to like
It has to
exercise.
evolve, I guess, also.
Yeah, it has to evolve, and I think like they need to, manage their own time and like be responsible for how they use the iPad, right?
Yeah, I like the idea of giving them autonomy because like it follows you into your adulthood, right? Like if you always only learn how to follow instructions as a child, then like when you grow up, then you will still struggle with the same like problems. Like then you have difficulties like with time management. You need somebody to be like, this hour, do this thing, and then like you have no ability to kind of manage that yourself. So I really like that. I think that's a
Those conversations really help, like to get them to understand that like you only have so many hours in a day, and you need to plan your time.
And also
properly.
letting them fail at it. It's like, oh, it didn't work out for you today. Like, how do you feel about it, right?
I discovered one fun thing for them to do on a device though recently. My father set up a talk show for them on Zoom. So like he downloaded like a virtual background and then and they have like their stuffed toys and stuff, right? So like you connect it to the TV screen. So they are sitting in front of the iPad and they're putting on a talk show. They're interviewing each other, and then it's appearing on the screen and it's recorded, right? Like you can record your Zoom so they can play it right after that.
And what did they talk about?
They were having a heck of a time. They're interviewing each other.
Anything,
Like
right?
there was one girl who went because my daughter had to go to hospital. So tell us about your experience in hospital, Charlie. And then the youngest one had like she finally was tall enough to go on the Transformers ride at Universal Studios. So they were interviewing.
This is
each
their
other
version of
about that.
blogging now.
Yeah,
their own vlog.
vlog.
Their own little vlog.
Yeah, and then like their stuffed toys would put on a performance.
And kids really like that because they're watching it also, right? And
I mean,
they get to,
their
like,
creativity is
inspire.
boundless. So it's just about giving them, I guess, like the freedom to explore that as well, express it too.
And I guess that's one way of making your device work for
Work
you,
for you,
right?
yeah, I was just gonna
Versus
say.
you just sort of like being sucked into it.
Yep. Talking about this topic on like bringing kids up and everything and being parents, right? Especially for as individuals who grew up in like the age of like social media, right? And your kids will be children that also grew up in like social media, but it's a very different kind of like social media in general. What are some of the concerns that you guys have, and like how are you all kind of working that out?
I can't remember if it was last year or the year before that we were involved in like a Facebook Internet Safety Day sort of like campaign, and at that point in time I think my kids were only like 3 and 6 or something, and I wondered like, is it too early to be talking to them about the dangers of the internet? But I realized actually no, like the earlier you start the conversation the better it is.
I think like all the people who basically have access to educating them need to all be on the same page, right? So I think schools, I think the website is called Interland, like the program that teaches kids about internet safety. Like they basically play games with kids to like present examples for them. Like say for example, you take a funny picture of you and your friend and you want to share it. Like should you ask your friend even like, is it okay if I share this picture? And then when you share it, do you share it with everyone like public, or do you only share with your mommy and daddy, or do you share with your friends? And I think just having the conversations with these kids to let them know that, actually that photo that you have of a friend, it's because your friend's face is on it. You need to ask them permission if you can share it. Like you can't just go ahead and practicing consent, which is something that even I learned because I realized like, hey, when we take pictures, I'm like, I'm gonna post it. Like I never say, hey Sham, post our picture. You know what I mean? Because we
rub out in this one.
We grew up but
delete it. No.
We grew up inside. I mean, I also were adults, right? So we have I guess we can filter out things that where we deem like, hey, it's not cool we share this picture of our friend. You know what I mean? But I think teaching kids that what they take pictures of, or that the internet is not necessarily a place that you can just behave however you want to. That there is
just like in real life there are rules.
Exactly, that there are rules. I think boundaries. I think boundaries is like a great word to use, right? That like they need to respect those boundaries for themselves and for their friends and the people that they care and love about as well. So I think it's really helpful.
It's so excellent that your kids have access to the both of you and like your partners who are able to kind of guide them, right, in like how they use their social media and like digital, all the technology and stuff like that, right? But I think for a lot of the in-between generations, right, a lot of the advice that you guys are dishing out is advice that from people who you both are quite settled.
Fourth time. We had lost count already.
But like settled in your identity and being ready, right? But I think for a lot of us, especially me, and I was just sharing with you earlier that like when I feel like a part of my identity is tied to being like this, like social media savvy. Like I'm online. I know what's going on. I know the latest trends. I'm like ahead of the conversation. I have an informed opinion about all the different things. And I think for some of us, and I can relate that it's quite difficult to kind of separate or draw that boundary, even if like I'm aware that like this may be good for me, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like natural, you know.
Correct.
And sometimes without even
Instinct.
thinking. Yeah. I would recommend to anyone, regardless of which age you are, to just like do constant check-ins with yourself, like sanity checks, you know, like how am I feeling? What is making me feel this way? And like you'll realize a lot of times that it isn't like people who are, you know, like actual people, your friends who are making you feel down or tired or anxious. It's the amount of information we expose ourselves to and try to take in from being online all the time. You know, and you don't have to delete your Instagram account altogether, but maybe just try either putting small limits, right, to how much you use it, or just set a day where it's like, today I will not touch Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, like any of that.
I guess it's difficult for the generation in between that sort of have grown up on social media and where boundaries are not as, I guess, obvious or I think something that they practice, right? It's like almost a habit and like part of their lifestyle, right? To check in on social media, to be aware of what's happening, to share about what they're doing. But I think at the same time, because they're so aware, they also shouldn't ignore the statistics and the research, I guess, that have come up, right? Regarding digital burnout and like how we all need to start protecting that space that we're kind of so immersed in the digital world that we forget to look after our physical self in real life. I mean, there's really simple things aside from like putting on limiters on your phone. But like, I think it's always important to try and experience it yourself. Like if you took a day, like just give it a chance. Take a day to like stay off social media. I can like guarantee that if the benefits are like almost immediate. Like you can already sense that, you feel better about yourself and like, you were in control of your day and like actually you didn't really need social media, because I think the misconception is that I need to be on it, if not like I cannot function or like I won't be able to do my job or I missed out on something, right? And that FOMO is real, right? But the truth is you also like, I feel like if you have more real life experiences that you enjoy, that you do to treat yourself, I feel like you will start to realize that actually you've been losing out on all of that and spending all that time on social media. But you have to give it a chance because if this is your habit every day, day in, day out, to sort of be on it,
You need to adjust it.
you need to sort of reteach almost yourself.
Like give yourself a break. Make sure that you give yourself time to eat, like to just take a break, even if it's like a half an hour break where you can just like zone out, look at the trees, take a nap, or whatever.
That's great.
Like, plan time, I think, to do nothing is very important. Like, planning time to do nothing and being very intentional about that and not ashamed to claim that time.
And also don't stress out like if you can't do it immediately, like make the change immediately, because if your lifestyle has sort of like gone a certain way for such a long time, it is going to take a while like to sort of like change it up or adjust it. So like really be kind to yourself, but just I think giving a try is so important. Like just sort of, I guess, choosing to choose real life more than your device, like will just keep reminding you that real life is more awesome than the digital life.
Real life is more awesome.
And but the truth is to be respectful. Like, I mean, obviously there's some people who don't have like the luxuries that we do, right? And have very difficult real life situations as well. So it's not to like, I guess, not acknowledge that, but I think if you have the choice and you are able to make those choices for yourself and not live on social media and like indulge in your own life, I think like you will make great change like for yourself and your mental health.
I feel like this is a session where two older sisters are teaching me how to manage my digital FOMO.
Also brought up age one more time.
Older sisters. But thank you so much for joining me today. I think it's been a really good episode. I think like I will go and be more mindful and conscious about like doing that extra step. I think that works. So thanks guys.
Thanks for having us.